My wife started coming home late, and suddenly my bed felt like a hotel lobby, lots of unfamiliar comings and goings. The name's Nick Callahan, 43 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps my hands busy while my brain processes the world's endless parade of stupidity. Marta used to greet me at the door with a kiss that meant something. Now she barely looked up from her phone, mumbling about late meetings and demanding clients at her advertising firm. The woman who once laughed at my terrible jokes now treated my presence like background noise. "How was work?" I'd ask, genuinely curious about her day. "Fine," she'd reply, already heading upstairs. "I need to shower." Long day, always the shower, always immediately, like she was washing off evidence. I'm not stupid, despite what everyone seems to think. 21 years of marriage teaches you to read the signs. The new underwear she thought I wouldn't notice. The way she tilted her phone away when texting. The sudden interest in going to the gym after years of calling exercise organized torture. Our kids, Amelia and Ross, were both away at college, leaving just the two of us rattling around in our 4-bedroom house like marbles in a coffee can. The silence between us grew thicker each day, punctuated only by Marta's increasingly elaborate excuses for her absences. "I'm meeting Lacey for drinks," became her favorite. Lacey, her best friend since college, was apparently having a social renaissance that required Marta's constant attention. One Thursday evening, I came home early from a service call to find Marta and Lacey in our kitchen, heads together over wine glasses, giggling like teenagers. "Oh, that Jake," Lacey was saying, "and his protein shakes. Girl, you're getting more nutrition than a bodybuilder." They dissolved into laughter until they noticed me standing in the doorway. "Hey, honey," Marta said, her voice suddenly bright and artificial. "You're home early." "Computer emergency turned out to be a loose cable," I replied, watching Lacey's face flush red. "Who's Jake?" "Just this trainer at the gym," Marta said quickly. Lacey was telling me about his ridiculous health food obsession. Lacey nodded too enthusiastically. "Yeah, the guy's always pushing supplements and weird smoothie recipes. It's hilarious." But their eyes said otherwise. I'd seen that look before, the panicked glance between conspirators caught mid-scheme. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and headed to my workshop in the garage, but not before catching Lacey whisper, "You need to be more careful." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Marta slept beside me, her back turned like a wall. The pieces were floating around in my head, waiting to click together. Jake the trainer, protein shakes, Lacey's knowing smirk, Marta's sudden fitness enthusiasm. I should have been a detective, or at least married someone less obvious. The next morning, I found a gym towel in Marta's car that definitely wasn't ours. Navy blue with Turnbull Fitness embroidered in gold thread. And there was lipstick on it. Not Marta's usual shade, but close enough that she probably thought I wouldn't notice the difference. But I notice everything. It's what makes me good at my job. When Mrs. Henderson calls because her computer is broken, I notice the coffee ring on the keyboard and the sticky residue around the power button. When Mr. Garcia's laptop won't start, I notice the dog hair in the cooling vents and the bite marks on the power cord. And when my wife starts acting like a stranger, I notice every damn detail. I also found a hotel receipt wedged under the passenger seat. The Riverside Inn, last Tuesday night. Room 237. The signature at the bottom was barely legible, but I could make out M+J in Marta's handwriting. My hands shook as I photographed the receipt with my phone. 21 years of marriage reduced to evidence in a folder labeled Proof of Adultery on my desktop. That weekend, Marta announced she was going to a wellness retreat with Lacey. 2 days of yoga, meditation, and finding herself. "That sounds great," I said, not looking up from my newspaper. "You deserve some time to relax." She seemed surprised by my easy acceptance. "Really? You don't mind?" "Why would I mind?" "We're adults. We don't need to be attached at the hip." After she left, I drove to the Riverside Inn. The desk clerk, a bored-looking kid with too many piercings, barely glanced at me when I walked in. "Excuse me," I said, putting on my best confused husband act. "My wife was here last week, and she thinks she might have left her earrings in room 237. Could you check your lost and found?" "What's the name on the reservation?" "Callahan. Or maybe Turnbull. She might have used her business partner's name for the company credit card." The kid's fingers clicked across the keyboard. "Yeah, here it is. Turnbull. They were here Tuesday night. No lost and found items logged for that room, though." "They?" "Yeah, man. 2 people checked in. Happens all the time." I thanked him and walked back to my truck, my suspicions confirmed. Marta and Jake. Jake and Marta. The names tasted bitter in my mouth, but I needed more than circumstantial evidence. I needed to hear it from her own lips. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I ordered a small voice recorder online, the kind private investigators use, barely bigger than a thumb drive. When it arrived, I waited for the right moment and planted it under the driver's seat of Marta's car, secured with magnetic tape. 3 days later, I retrieved it and plugged it into my computer. What I heard made my blood boil and my heart break simultaneously. "God, I can't wait to get out of that house." Marta's voice, clear as day. "Nick just sits there like a lump, fixing his stupid computers and making his stupid jokes. When was the last time he made me feel alive, you know?" A man's voice responded, deeper, younger, cocky. "Forget about him, babe. You're with me now. That's all that matters." "I know, but it's complicated. The kids, the house, our finances are all tangled up. I can't just leave. So don't leave. Just keep doing what we're doing. If Nick asks, tell him we're doing Pilates all night." They both laughed, and the sound cut through me like broken glass. "You're terrible," Marta giggled. "But I love it. I love feeling wanted again." "Oh, you're definitely wanted. Wait until you see what I have planned for tonight." The recording went on for another 10 minutes, detailing plans I didn't want to hear and promises that made me sick. When it finally ended, I sat in my workshop for an hour, staring at the wall and processing what I'd learned. My wife of 21 years was having an affair with some gym rat named Jake Turnbull. She thought I was a boring lump who didn't deserve honesty or respect. She was planning to keep me around for financial security while getting her thrills elsewhere. Well, Marta was about to learn that this boring lump had some surprises of his own. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Tony's number. Tony Ricci owned Murphy's Tavern downtown and had been my best friend since high school. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it was Tony. "Nick!" "What's up, buddy?" "Tony, I need to talk to someone. Can you meet me at the bar?" "Sure thing. Everything okay? You sound like hell." "I'll explain when I get there. And Tony, this stays between us. Always does, my friend. Always does." As I drove toward downtown, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding, but underneath it was something else. Something cold and calculating. Marta wanted to treat me like a friend instead of a husband? Fine. She was about to learn the difference. Murphy's Tavern smelled like old wood, spilled beer, and broken dreams. Tony was waiting for me in our usual booth, 2 beers already on the table. He took one look at my face and knew this wasn't a social call. "Lay it on me," he said simply. I told him everything. The late nights, the gym towel, the hotel receipt, the recording. Tony listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. Jesus, Nick. 21 years and she throws it away for some musclehead? "It gets worse," I said, pulling out my phone. "Listen to this." I played him the most damning part of the recording, Marta laughing about keeping me around for financial security while she played house with Jake. Tony's jaw clenched. "That cold-hearted witch. What are you going to do?" "I'm not sure yet. Part of me wants to confront her, but that just gives her a chance to lie or turn it around on me. Part of me wants to hire a lawyer and take her for everything she's worth. Both solid options, but there's a third choice. Which is? Tony leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. You make her life hell first. Let her dig her own grave deeper, then you bury her in it. I'm listening. Think about it, Nick. Right now, she thinks she's got the perfect setup. Stable husband at home, exciting boyfriend on the side. She's comfortable, confident, careless. That's when people make mistakes. So I let her keep making mistakes? You encourage her to make bigger ones. Give her enough rope to hang herself with. We talked for 2 hours, sketching out a plan that was part psychology, part theater, and part pure revenge. By the time I drove home, I felt like a different person. The hurt was still there, but now it had direction. Marta was in the living room when I walked in, curled up on the couch with her laptop. Hey, she said without looking up. How was your night out with Tony? Good. We were talking about relationships, actually. That got her attention. She glanced up with what looked like concern. Oh? Everything okay with him and Susan? They're fine. We were talking about marriage in general. How people change, grow apart, want different things. I sat down in my recliner, keeping my voice casual. You know, Marta, I've been thinking about us lately. Her body language shifted, shoulders tensing, fingers pausing over the keyboard. What about us? We're not the same people we were 21 years ago. Hell, we're not the same people we were 5 years ago. Maybe we've been trying too hard to force something that's run its course. What are you saying? I took a deep breath, as if this was difficult for me. I'm saying maybe we should stop pretending to be husband and wife and just be friends. Take the pressure off. See where that leads us. The relief on her face was so obvious, it was almost insulting. Really? You'd be okay with that? I think it might be exactly what we both need. No expectations, no obligations. Just two people who care about each other figuring out what comes next. She closed the laptop and turned to face me fully. Nick, that's really mature of you. I was worried you'd be upset about the distance between us lately. Life's too short to be upset about things we can't control. If we're meant to be together, we'll find our way back. If not, at least we'll part as friends. That night, she actually seemed happier than she'd been in months. She chatted about her work, asked about mine, even laughed at one of my stupid jokes. But I noticed she checked her phone constantly, probably texting Jake about this unexpected development. The next morning, I started implementing Tony's plan. Hey, friend, I said cheerfully as Marta poured her coffee. Since we're just roommates now, I figured we should split the household duties more fairly. I'll handle my own laundry from now on. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And I'll start doing my own grocery shopping. No point in you having to guess what I want to eat. By the end of the week, I had systematically removed myself from every husbandly duty I'd been performing. No more taking out her trash, no more filling up her car with gas, no more picking up her dry cleaning. When she asked me to fix her laptop, I told her I'd have to charge my usual rate since we were just friends now. You want me to pay you to fix my computer? She asked, incredulous. Well, yeah, I don't do free work for friends. That's how friendships get complicated. The first crack in her composure appeared when I started treating her exactly like I treated Tony or my other male friends. I stopped opening doors for her, stopped carrying her bags, stopped deferring to her opinions about household decisions. What do you want to watch? I asked one evening, remote in hand. I don't care. Whatever you want. Great. Football it is. She endured 20 minutes of Monday night football before retreating to the bedroom with a book and a wounded expression. But the real genius of the plan revealed itself when I started bringing Marissa around. Marissa Chen worked in my company's accounting department. She was 35, divorced, funny as hell, and had been flirting with me for months in that harmless way that married people do. When I asked if she wanted to grab dinner and catch a movie, she jumped at the chance. This is Marissa, I told Marta when I brought her home the following Saturday. We're going to watch that new action movie you said looked stupid. Marta's smile was so forced it looked painful. Nice to meet you, Marissa. I'm Nick's friend, Marta. Oh, the wife. Nick's told me so much about you. I hope you don't mind me stealing him for the evening. Not at all, Marta replied, but her eyes said otherwise. You two have fun. As Marissa and I settled onto the couch with popcorn and beer, Marta hovered nearby, finding excuses to walk through the living room. She reorganized the bookshelf, watered plants that didn't need watering, and generally made her presence known. Your wife seems nice, Marissa whispered during a quiet scene. She's great, I whispered back. We're just friends now, though. Much better that way. Marissa raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. She was smart enough to read between the lines. The next week, Marta tried a different approach. Nick, I was thinking we should have dinner together more often. You know, maintain our connection as friends. Sure, but I've got plans tonight. Marissa and I are trying that new Italian place downtown. Tomorrow night? Tony's having a poker game. Thursday? I have plans Thursday. With Jake? I asked innocently. She froze. Who's Jake? The trainer Lacey was talking about. The one with the protein shakes. I figured you must know him if you're going to his gym. Oh, right, Jake. No, I'm meeting Lacey for drinks. Cool. Maybe next week then. I could see the frustration building in her eyes. This wasn't how the friends' arrangement was supposed to work. She expected me to be available whenever she wanted attention, while she continued her affair guilt-free. The breaking point came at Lacey's birthday party 2 weeks later. Lacey had rented the back room at a trendy restaurant downtown, and half the advertising crowd was there. Marta spent the evening working the room like a politician, laughing too loudly at unfunny jokes and touching people's arms when she talked to them. I stuck close to the bar, nursing a beer and observing. That's when I noticed him, Jake Turnbull in the flesh, 6'2", artificially tanned, wearing a shirt 2 sizes too small to show off his biceps. He kept catching Marta's eye across the room, sharing secret smiles and meaningful glances. You must be Nick, a voice said beside me. I turned to find Lacey herself, slightly drunk and wearing a predatory smile. Marta's friend. That's me. Happy birthday, Lacey. Thank you, sweetie. You know, I have to say, this whole friends thing is very mature of you two. Life's too short for drama. Exactly. And now that you're both free to explore other options. She moved closer, her hand landing on my arm. Maybe we should get to know each other better. I glanced across the room and saw Marta watching us, her face pale. Jake was standing next to her, but her attention was completely focused on Lacey's hand on my arm. That's an interesting proposition, I said, not moving away from Lacey's touch. What did you have in mind? Well, I know this great little bar with live music. Very intimate. Very private. Before I could respond, Marissa appeared at my other side. She'd been mingling with some of the other guests, but now she slipped her arm through mine with practiced ease. Sorry to interrupt, she said sweetly. Nick, you promised me a dance. I don't think they're playing dancing music, I said, but she was already pulling me toward a small, clear area near the windows. They are now, she said, pulling out her phone and connecting to the restaurant's Bluetooth speakers. A slow song filled the room, and she stepped into my arms. We'd never danced before, but Marissa followed my lead perfectly. She was warm and soft against me, smelling like vanilla perfume instead of gym sweat and guilt. Your wife looks like she wants to murder me, Marissa whispered in my ear. She's not my wife anymore. Remember? We're just friends. Right. Friends. She pulled back to look at me, her dark eyes serious. Nick, I don't know what game you're playing here, but I hope you know what you're doing. Trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing. The song ended, but we didn't separate immediately. In that moment of stillness, Marissa rose up on her toes and kissed me. It wasn't passionate or desperate, just a soft, sweet kiss that tasted like possibility. When we broke apart, I looked over her shoulder and saw Marta standing frozen by the bar, her face a mask of shock and betrayal. Jake was talking in her ear, but she wasn't listening. Her eyes were locked on mine, and in them I saw something I hadn't seen in months. She still cared. Despite everything, despite Jake, despite her plans to keep me around as a security blanket while she played house with her trainer, she still cared enough to be jealous. That's when I knew the plan was working. Marta stormed out of the party 5 minutes later, Jake trailing behind her like a confused puppy. I stayed another hour, dancing with Marissa and chatting with the other guests as if nothing had happened. "Want to get some coffee?" Marissa asked as the party wound down. "Rain check? I should probably head home and see how my friend is doing." She smiled knowingly. "Your friend is lucky to have someone who cares so much about her well-being. I'm just that kind of guy." When I got home, the house was dark except for a light under the bedroom door. I could hear Marta on the phone, her voice muffled but agitated. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. She was not happy. I smiled as I headed to the guest room where I'd been sleeping since our friends arrangement began. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to twist the knife a little deeper. After all, that's what friends are for. Monday morning brought an unexpected development. Marta was waiting in the kitchen when I came down for coffee, still in her pajamas with dark circles under her eyes. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. "Sure, friend. What's on your mind?" She winced at the word friend, but pressed on. "About Saturday night. That kiss with Marissa." "What about it?" "It seemed inappropriate, given that we're still married." I poured my coffee slowly, considering my response. "Marta, you were the one who wanted to be friends. Friends don't get to dictate each other's romantic lives. But we're not divorced. We're still legally married. So are you. That doesn't seem to stop you from spending time with Jake." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about? Come on, Marta. Give me some credit. I'm not blind and I'm not stupid. You've been seeing someone for months. The late nights, the new underwear, the sudden interest in fitness. Either you're having an affair or you're planning to join the Olympics." For a moment, I thought she might confess. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But then her defenses kicked in. "I don't know what you're implying, but I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You want to see other people? I'm fine with that. But don't expect me to sit home alone while you're out having fun." She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. That afternoon, I called Sheila Martinez, one of my coworkers who happened to be a tech wizard with a suspicious mind. If anyone could help me gather more evidence, it was Sheila. "You want me to do what?" she asked when I explained what I needed. "Just basic stuff. Phone records, social media monitoring, maybe a GPS tracker for her car. Nothing illegal, nothing invasive, just information." "Nick, this sounds like a recipe for disaster." "The disaster already happened, Sheila. I'm just documenting it." She sighed heavily. "Fine. But if this blows up in your face, I never heard of you." Within a week, Sheila had provided me with a treasure trove of information. Marta's phone records showed dozens of calls and texts to a number registered to Jake Turnbull. Her social media activity revealed she'd been checking in at locations she'd never mentioned to me. Restaurants, bars, even a weekend trip to a lake house that she'd told me was a work retreat. The GPS tracker Sheila helped me install in Marta's car painted an even clearer picture. 3 visits to the Riverside Inn in the past month, regular stops at Jake's apartment complex, extended lunch breaks that coincided with Jake's gym schedule. But the real gold mine came from Jake himself. It turns out Jake Turnbull was not the brightest bulb in the chandelier. His social media profiles were public, and he loved posting about his conquests. There were cryptic references to married women who know what they want, and photos of expensive dinners with captions like, "When someone else is paying, order the lobster." Even better, Jake had a business rival, another gym owner named Marcus Webb. who'd been trying to poach Jake's clients for years. When I approached Marcus with some carefully edited screenshots of Jake's more inflammatory posts, he was more than happy to help spread the word about Jake's unprofessional behavior. "This guy's been stealing clients and sleeping with members' wives for years," Marcus told me over coffee, "but nobody's ever had proof before." "Well, now you do. Use it wisely." Within days, whispers were circulating through the local fitness community. Jake's gym started losing members as word spread about his extracurricular activities. His business partner, a straight-laced family man named David Chen, was reportedly asking uncomfortable questions about Jake's conduct. But I wasn't done yet. That weekend, while Marta was at another wellness retreat with Lacey, I paid a visit to Turnbull Fitness. Jake was working with a client when I walked in, but he spotted me immediately. His cocky smile faltered when he realized who I was. "Can I help you?" he asked, abandoning his client mid-rep. "Actually, I'm here to help you," I said, pulling out my phone. "Someone's been spreading rumors about your business practices, and I thought you should know." I showed him some of the screenshots Marcus had been circulating, carefully edited to hide my involvement, of course. Jake's face went through several color changes as he read. "This is bullshit. Who's doing this?" "No idea, but you might want to be more careful about what you post online, and maybe more discreet about your personal relationships. Small town, big mouths, you know?" He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. He wasn't sure if I knew about him and Marta, but he was smart enough to be worried. "Thanks for the heads up," he said finally. "No problem. Us married guys have to stick together, right?" That evening, I retrieved the voice recorder from Marta's car and was rewarded with a panicked conversation between her and Jake. "He knows," Marta's voice tight with anxiety. "Nick knows about us." "How could he know?" "We've been careful. He came to the gym today, Jake. He was asking you about rumors. That's not a coincidence. Maybe he's just suspicious. That doesn't mean he has proof. You don't understand. Nick's not the type to make accusations without evidence. If he's asking questions, it's because he already knows the answers." There was a long pause, then Jake's voice, less confident now. "So what do we do?" "I don't know. I need time to think. Maybe we should cool things off for a while, until this blows over." "Cool things off?" Marta's voice rose. "Jake, I've risked everything for this relationship. My marriage, my family, my reputation. You can't just walk away when things get complicated." "I'm not walking away. I'm being smart. If your husband's building a case against you, the last thing we need is to give him more ammunition." "A case? What kind of case?" "Divorce case, Marta. Adultery's still grounds for divorce in this state. If he's got proof, he could take you for everything." The recording went on for another 10 minutes, but I'd heard enough. They were scared, and scared people make mistakes. It was time to turn up the heat. The next phase of my plan required some creativity. I'd noticed that Jake drove a ridiculously oversized pickup truck, one of those lifted monsters with chrome everything and a sound system that could wake the dead. He was obviously proud of it, posting photos of it constantly and parking it in the most visible spot at the gym. So I decided to give him something to really post about. It took some research, but I found a supplier who sold liquid fish fertilizer, the kind that smells like death and doesn't wash off easily. I also picked up some industrial-strength zip ties and a few other supplies from the hardware store. The following Tuesday, while Jake was inside the gym training his evening clients, I paid his truck a visit. I'd watched his routine for weeks, so I knew he'd be busy for at least an hour. Working quickly, I zip-tied small containers of fish fertilizer to various hidden spots under the truck, the exhaust pipe, the undercarriage, the wheel wells. Then I punctured each container with a small hole, just enough to create a slow leak. By the time Jake finished his last client and walked out to the parking lot, his precious truck reeked like a seafood processing plant. The smell was so bad that other gym members were covering their noses and hurrying to their cars. Jake stood there for 5 minutes trying to figure out what had happened. He popped the hood, checked the interior, even crawled under the truck with his phone's flashlight. But the containers were well hidden, and in the dark parking lot, he couldn't locate the source of the smell. The best part was watching him try to drive home with all the windows down, his face contorted in disgust. I followed at a safe distance, laughing so hard I nearly ran a red light. But that was just the appetizer. The next morning I called in an anonymous tip to the local health department, reporting a possible sewage leak or dead animal in the parking lot of Turnbull Fitness. When the inspector arrived and traced the smell to Jake's truck, things got interesting fast. Jake tried to explain that it wasn't his fault, that someone must have vandalized his vehicle. But the inspector didn't care about fault, he cared about public health. The truck was declared a health hazard and had to be towed to a special facility for cleaning and decontamination. The local news picked up the story that evening. Local gym closed temporarily due to mysterious odor. Jake's face appeared on camera, red with embarrassment, trying to explain the situation to a skeptical reporter. This was clearly an act of vandalism, he insisted. Someone targeted my business and my personal vehicle. Do you have any idea who might want to do such a thing? The reporter asked. Jake's eyes flicked toward the camera, and for a split second I thought he might actually say my name. But he caught himself. No comment. The story went viral on social media, with people sharing photos and videos of Jake's stinking truck. Someone created a meme with Jake's face, and the caption, "When your protein shake goes bad." Another showed his truck with the text, "Oh to Jim Bro." Within 24 hours, Jake Turnbull had become the laughingstock of the entire city. And I was just getting started. That evening, Marta came home looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Ironically appropriate, given the circumstances. Rough day? I asked innocently. You could say that. She slumped onto the couch, not bothering to hide her exhaustion. Did you see the news today? About the gym? Yeah, that was weird. What kind of person vandalizes someone's truck like that? She looked at me sharply, but I kept my expression neutral. The kind of person who wants to destroy someone's life, she said quietly. Well, hopefully they catch whoever did it. Nobody deserves that kind of harassment. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the suspicion in her eyes. But suspicion isn't proof, and we both knew it. Nick, can I ask you something? Sure, friend. What's on your mind? Again, that wince at the word friend. Are you seeing Marissa? I mean, seriously seeing her? We've gone out a few times. She's good company. But are you sleeping with her? I pretended to consider the question. That's kind of personal, don't you think? I mean, we're just friends now. Friends don't usually discuss their sex lives in detail. Her face crumpled slightly. Right. Of course. I was curious. Why? Are you thinking about dating someone? Because if you are, I hope he treats you better than you deserve. The words hung in the air between us, loaded with meaning. Marta opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. She knew I knew. I knew she knew I knew. But neither of us was ready to break the charade just yet. I'm going to bed, she said finally. Good night, friend. As she walked upstairs, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the photos Sheila had sent me earlier. Jake's gym was hemorrhaging members, his business partner was asking questions, and his reputation was in tatters. But the real beauty of my plan was just beginning to unfold. Because tomorrow, I was going to take things public. And once the whole city knew about Jake Turnbull and his married girlfriend, there would be no going back for either of them. The next morning, I implemented the most crucial part of my plan. While Marta was in the shower, I accessed her laptop using the password I'd watched her type 100 times, our wedding anniversary, ironically enough. Her email account was a goldmine. Months of correspondence with Jake, ranging from sweet nothings to explicit details about their encounters. screenshots of their text conversations, including several where they mocked me directly. Photos they'd sent each other, some of which were definitely not suitable for family viewing. But the crown jewel was a draft email Marta had never sent, apparently written after a fight with Jake. In it, she detailed their entire relationship, when it started, where they met, even a list of places they'd been together behind my back. It read like a confession, complete with guilt and justification in equal measure. I forwarded everything to a secure email account Sheila had helped me set up, then cleared the browser history and logged out. Marta emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, humming cheerfully, oblivious to what had just happened. "Morning, friend," I said, not looking up from my coffee. "Morning. I was thinking maybe we could have dinner tonight, just the two of us." "Can't. I'm meeting Marissa at that new steakhouse downtown, but maybe this weekend?" Her face fell. "Oh, okay. Maybe this weekend." After she left for work, I drove to Tony's bar for a strategy session. I'd been keeping him updated on my progress, and he was as invested in the outcome as I was. "So what's the endgame here, Nick?" "You've got enough evidence to bury her in divorce court. Why keep playing games?" "Because divorce court is private," I explained. "A judge and 2 lawyers see the evidence, Marta gets embarrassed, and life goes on. But public humiliation, that lasts forever." "What did you have in mind?" I pulled out my phone and showed him some of the screenshots I'd collected. "Jake's gym is already struggling because of the truck incident. His business partner is asking questions. All it would take is one final push to bring the whole thing crashing down. And Marta? Marta's about to learn that actions have consequences. And some consequences are very, very public." That afternoon, I paid a visit to Jake's gym during the busy lunch hour. The place was nearly empty. Word about the truck incident had spread, and people were staying away in droves. Jake was behind the front desk, looking haggard and desperate. When he saw me walk in, his whole body tensed. "What do you want?" he asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "Just thought I'd check out the facilities," I said, looking around at the mostly empty workout floor. "Business seems a little slow." "It's temporary. Things will pick up." "I'm sure they will." Although I have to say, that truck incident was pretty bizarre. Any idea who might have done something like that? His eyes narrowed. "Why? You got any theories?" "Well, I was thinking it might be someone who had a personal grudge. Maybe someone who found out about your extracurricular activities." The color drained from his face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do, Jake. You're sleeping with my wife." The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Jake looked around nervously, but the few remaining gym members were too far away to hear our conversation. "Look, man, I don't know what you think. I don't think anything. I know. I have recordings, photos, hotel receipts, phone records. I know when it started, where you meet, what you do together. I know she pays for your dinners and you pay for the hotel rooms. I know you call her babe and she calls you baby. I know you both think I'm a boring loser who deserves to be cheated on." Jake's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Nick, listen, it's exactly what it looks like. The question is, what are we going to do about it? What do you want?" "I want you to end it. Today. Right now. Call her and tell her it's over." "And if I don't?" I smiled, pulling out my phone. "Then tomorrow morning, everyone in this city is going to know exactly what kind of man Jake Turnbull really is. Your business partner, your clients, your family, your friends. Everyone." He stared at the phone in my hand, understanding the threat. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I scrolled to one of the more explicit photos Marta had sent him. "This one's my favorite. Really shows your artistic side. You bastard." "Maybe. But I'm a bastard who's been married to the same woman for 21 years. What's your excuse?" Jake's hands clenched into fists, and for a moment I thought he might actually take a swing at me. But we were in his place of business, with witnesses around, and he was smart enough to know that assaulting me would only make things worse. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. I'll end it. Right now. Call her right now. Here? Here! With shaking hands, Jake pulled out his phone and dialed Marta's number. She answered on the second ring. Hey, baby. What's up? Marta, we need to talk. It's over. This thing between us, it's done. What? Jake, what are you talking about? I can't do this anymore. It was a mistake from the beginning. Jake, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Did something happen? Jake looked at me, his eyes pleading. I nodded toward the phone, indicating he should continue. Nothing happened. I realize this is wrong. You're married. I'm not ready for this kind of relationship. We need to end it before someone gets hurt. Someone gets hurt? Jake, what the hell is going on? I have to go, Marta. Don't call me again. He hung up before she could respond, his hand trembling as he put the phone away. There. It's done. Good. Now, just to make sure we understand each other, if you contact her again, if you see her again, if you so much as look at her again, those photos go public. Are we clear? Crystal. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Jake? You might want to think about finding a new line of work. I have a feeling the fitness industry isn't going to be very welcoming to you much longer. I left him standing there, looking like a man who'd just watched his entire world collapse. Which, in a way, he had. My phone started ringing before I even reached my truck. Marta calling in a panic. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her frantic message. Nick, something's wrong. Jake just broke up with me out of nowhere and he won't tell me why. He sounded scared, like someone threatened him. I don't know what to do. Please call me back. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to Marissa's office building and waited in the parking lot until she came out for her lunch break. Nick, what are you doing here? I wanted to ask you something. Are you free for dinner tonight? Somewhere public, somewhere people might see us? She studied my face carefully. This is about your wife, isn't it? It's about a lot of things. But yes, partly. Nick, I like you. I like spending time with you. But I'm not going to be a prop in whatever game you're playing with Marta. It's not a game anymore, Marissa. It's an ending. And after tonight, it'll be over. Promise me something. What? Promise me that when this is all finished, when the dust settles, you'll figure out what you actually want. Not revenge, not payback, but what you really want for your future. I looked into her dark eyes and saw genuine concern there. I promise. Okay then. Dinner it is. But you're paying, and I want the good wine. That evening, Marissa and I had dinner at the most popular restaurant in town, the kind of place where everyone sees everyone, and gossip spreads like wildfire. We took our time, ordered multiple courses, and made sure to be seen by as many people as possible. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from Marta, but I ignored them all. Let her panic. Let her wonder. Let her feel what it's like to be on the outside looking in. Around 9 o'clock, just as we were finishing dessert, Marta walked into the restaurant. She looked terrible. Hair disheveled, makeup smeared, eyes red from crying. She spotted us immediately and marched over to our table, ignoring the stares from other diners. Nick, we need to talk. Now. I'm having dinner with a friend, Marta. Can this wait? No, it can't wait. Something's happened. Something's wrong. Marissa started to stand up. Maybe I should go. No, I said, gently pulling her back down. Stay. Marta, if you have something to say it. We're all friends here. Marta looked around the restaurant, suddenly aware that we had an audience. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Jake broke up with me today. Just like that. Out of nowhere. He sounded terrified, like someone had threatened him. Nick, I think someone knows about us. About what? You know what? No, Marta. I really don't. Why don't you spell it out for everyone? She stared at me, realization dawning in her eyes. You did something to him. I had a conversation with him, yes. Man to man. I explained that sleeping with other men's wives isn't very neighborly behavior. You threatened him. I informed him of the consequences of his actions. There's a difference. The restaurant had gone quiet around us, other diners straining to hear our conversation. Marta seemed to realize this and tried to lower her voice even further. Nick, please, can we go home and talk about this privately? Why? We're just friends, remember? Friends talk about their problems openly. Don't do this. Not here. Do what? Have a conversation with my friend about her relationship troubles? I thought that's what friends were for. Marissa was watching this exchange with fascination and growing alarm. She'd figured out that she was witnessing the climax of something much bigger than a simple marital spat. Marta, I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the quiet restaurant. If you're having problems with Jake, maybe you should talk to his business partner. I hear David Chen is very interested in Jake's extracurricular activities lately. Her face went white. How do you know about David? Small town, big mouths. Word gets around when someone's conducting business in hotel rooms instead of conference rooms. That's when she snapped. You son of a bitch! She screamed, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. You destroyed my relationship. You ruined everything. The restaurant erupted in whispers and gasps. Phones came out as people started recording. Marta had just confessed to having an affair in front of 50 witnesses, and it was all being captured for posterity. I didn't destroy anything, Marta. You did that all by yourself when you decided to sleep with Jake Turnbull while we were still married. The name Jake Turnbull rippled through the crowd. Half the people in the restaurant knew who he was, especially after the truck incident had made him locally famous. You're sick, Marta hissed. This whole thing, this revenge fantasy, it's sick. What's sick is lying to your husband for months while you screw around with a gym rat. What's sick is planning to keep me around for financial security while you play house with your boyfriend. What's sick is laughing about it with your friends like I'm some kind of joke. By now, the entire restaurant was watching us like we were dinner theater. The manager was hovering nearby, unsure whether to intervene or call the police. I want a divorce, Marta said, her voice shaking with rage and humiliation. Good. I'll have my lawyer contact yours. Don't worry about the evidence. I've got plenty. She stared at me for one more moment, then turned and fled the restaurant, pushing past other diners in her haste to escape. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Marissa started to laugh. Well, she said, raising her wine glass, that was definitely better than dinner theater. The tension broke, and the restaurant gradually returned to normal conversation levels, though I could feel eyes on us for the rest of the evening. Are you okay? Marissa asked as we waited for the check. You know what? I actually am. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again. And what happens now? Now I go home, pack Marta's belongings, and start the rest of my life. Without her. Without her. Marissa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Good for you, Nick. You deserve better. So do you. And I promise, when this is all over, I'll figure out what comes next, for both of us. As we left the restaurant, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of pretense, of playing games, of swallowing my pride and anger, all of it was gone. Marta had made her choice months ago. Tonight, I'd finally made mine. And tomorrow, the whole city would know exactly what kind of woman Marta Callahan really was. I woke up the next morning to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages on my phone. Word of last night's restaurant scene had spread through social media like wildfire, and everyone wanted details. The most interesting message came from David Chen, Jake's business partner. Nick, we need to talk. Can you meet me at my office this morning? I showered, dressed, and drove across town to Chen's accounting firm. David was waiting for me with coffee and a grim expression. I'll cut right to the chase, he said as soon as I sat down. I want Jake out of the business. The truck incident, the rumors about his personal conduct, and now this public mess with your wife, it's destroying our reputation. What does that have to do with me? I need evidence. Solid legal evidence that Jake violated our partnership agreement's morality clause. If you've got proof of his affair with a married woman, that's exactly what I need. I pretended to consider his request. What's in it for me? Jake loses everything. His business, his income, his reputation. Isn't that what you want? That's a start. But I want more than that. David leaned forward, interested. What else? I want him publicly humiliated. I want everyone in this city to know exactly what kind of man he is, and I want it to be legal, official, and permanent. Done. If you provide the evidence, I'll make sure it becomes part of the public record when I file for dissolution of our partnership. An hour later, I walked out of David's office with a signed agreement and a check for my consulting services. By noon, Jake Turnbull would be served with papers that would destroy his business and make all the sordid details of his affair with Marta part of the public court record. But I wasn't done yet. My next stop was the advertising agency where Marta worked. I'd called ahead and made an appointment with her boss, Richard Hawkins, under the pretense of discussing a potential IT contract. Richard was a sleazy little man who'd been hitting on Marta for years, not knowing she was getting her thrills elsewhere. When I walked into his office carrying a manila folder, his expression was curious but wary. "Nick." "Good to see you. Marta's not in today, called in sick this morning, but I understand you wanted to discuss some computer work?" "Actually, Richard, I wanted to discuss Marta's work, specifically her extracurricular activities." His smile faltered. "I'm not sure I follow." I opened the folder and spread several printed photos across his desk, screenshots of Marta's social media check-ins, hotel receipts, and a few carefully selected text messages between her and Jake. "It seems my wife has been conducting personal business on company time." "A lot of personal business. Those client meetings she's been billing for, half of them were actually romantic encounters with her boyfriend." Richard's face went through several color changes as he examined the evidence. As Marta's supervisor, he was legally liable if she'd been falsifying her timesheets and expense reports. "Jesus, Nick, how long has this been going on?" "About 8 months, by my count. I've got detailed records of her whereabouts during work hours if you're interested." This is fraud. She's been stealing from the company. That's between you and her. I just thought you should know what kind of employee you've been covering for." I left Richard's office knowing that Marta's career was finished. Even if she managed to avoid criminal charges, no advertising agency in the city would hire her after word got out about her conduct. My phone rang as I was driving home. Amelia, my daughter, calling from college. "Dad, I just saw something on Facebook about you and Mom. What's going on?" I pulled over and took a deep breath. This was the conversation I'd been dreading. "Your mother and I are getting divorced, sweetheart. She's been having an affair." Silence on the other end, then, "With that gym guy everyone's talking about? You heard about that?" "Dad, it's all over social media. There are videos of Mom screaming at you in that restaurant. My friends have been sending me links all morning. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Are you okay? You sound different." "I'm better than I've been in months, actually. Your mother made her choice, and now I'm making mine. What about the house? What about our family? The house will probably be sold. As for our family, you and Ross will always be my kids, no matter what happens between your mother and me. This doesn't change that. I want to come home this weekend. Ross does too. You don't have to do that. Yes, we do. We want to hear your side of the story." After I hung up, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. My children were adults. They could handle the truth. And maybe finally, I could stop pretending that everything was fine. I was almost home when I noticed Jake's truck in my driveway. He was sitting on my front porch, looking like a man who'd lost everything, which coincidentally he had. When I got out of my truck, he stood up slowly, his hands visible and empty. "We need to talk," he said. "I thought we covered everything yesterday." David Chen fired me this morning, kicked me out of the gym, out of the business, everything. Says I violated some morality clause. That's unfortunate. You did this. You planned this whole thing. I walked past him to my front door, key in hand. I didn't plan anything, Jake. I just stopped pretending I didn't know what was going on. My life is ruined. My business, my reputation, everything. Should have thought about that before you started sleeping with married women. And Marta? What about her? I turned to face him. What about her? She's destroyed too. Lost her job, her friends won't return her calls. Her own mother hung up on her this morning. Was that really necessary? Jake, let me explain something to you. For 8 months, you and my wife conducted an affair that made me look like a fool. You laughed about me, mocked me, used me for financial security while you played house together. You thought I was too stupid or too weak to figure it out. You were wrong. I'm not stupid, and I'm not weak. I'm thorough. When someone betrays me, I make sure they understand the consequences. Jake's shoulders sagged. So what now? You've won. We're both ruined. Are you happy? I considered the question seriously. You know what, Jake? I actually am happy. For the first time in months, I feel like I have control over my own life. This isn't over, Nick. Yes, it is. You're done here. You're done with Marta, done with this city, done with me. If you're smart, you'll leave town and start over somewhere else. Because if you try to cause more problems, I'll make what's already happened look like a warm-up. He stared at me for a long moment, then walked to his truck without another word. As he drove away, I felt the last piece of tension leave my shoulders. It was over. Finally, completely over. I walked into my house and found Marta sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by legal documents. She looked up when I entered, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "The divorce papers," she said simply. "I signed them." "Good. I also got fired today. Richard says I was falsifying timesheets." "Were you?" "You know I was." I sat down across from her, studying her face. She looked older somehow, worn down by the weight of her choices. "Nick, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I didn't plan for this to happen. It just did. Things don't just happen, Marta. People make choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to mock me with your friends. Those were all deliberate decisions. I know, and I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Both, I guess. At least you're being honest now. What happens next?" "You move out. I keep the house. You get half the retirement accounts and investments, but that's it. No alimony, no ongoing support. The kids are adults, so there's no custody to worry about." "And us? Is there any chance?" "No. There's no us anymore, Marta." "You made sure of that." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I loved you, you know. I still do." "No, you don't. You love the security I provided. You love having someone to fall back on when your adventures don't work out. But you don't love me. If you did, none of this would have happened." She packed her belongings that afternoon while I worked in my shop. When she was done, she stood in the doorway with her suitcases, looking lost and broken. "Where will you go?" I asked. "My sister's for now, until I figure things out. Good luck, Marta." "Nick, I really am sorry." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix anything." After she left, I walked through the house, seeing it clearly for the first time in months. It felt different, cleaner somehow, like a weight had been lifted from every room. My phone buzzed with a text from Marissa. Dinner tonight? My treat this time. I smiled as I typed back. Yes, but somewhere quiet. I think I've had enough public drama for a while. Your place then? I'll bring Chinese food and wine. Perfect. That evening, as Marissa and I sat on my couch sharing takeout containers and talking about everything except revenge and divorce, I realized something important. For the first time in years, I was looking forward instead of backward. Jake Turnbull left town 3 days later, reportedly moving back to his hometown in another state. His gym was sold to Marcus Webb, who immediately renamed it and began rebuilding its reputation. Marta found a job with a small marketing firm in the next county over, making half what she used to earn. We communicated only through lawyers after that, finalizing our divorce with cold efficiency. The kids came home that weekend as promised. We talked for hours about what had happened, about their mother's choices and mine. They were hurt and angry, but they understood. More importantly, they supported my decision to end the marriage rather than try to salvage it. You deserve to be happy, Dad, Amelia told me as she hugged me goodbye. Mom made her choice. Now you get to make yours. 3 months later, Marissa and I went public with our relationship. Not with drama or public scenes, but quietly, naturally, the way healthy relationships should develop. 6 months after that, I sold the house and bought a smaller place across town. Marissa moved in with me, bringing her books and her laughter and her belief in second chances. The whole mess with Marta and Jake became local legend, the kind of story people tell at parties about the dangers of infidelity and the power of patience. I became something of a folk hero among the divorced men in town, the guy who'd fought back and won. But the real victory wasn't the revenge or the public humiliation or even the favorable divorce settlement. The real victory was learning that I didn't have to accept betrayal and disrespect just to keep the peace. The real victory was discovering that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. The real victory was finding out that life after betrayal could be better than life before it, if you had the courage to demand what you deserved. 2 years later, I married Marissa in a small ceremony attended by our closest friends and my children. Jake Turnbull and Marta were ancient history by then, footnotes in a story that had moved on to better chapters. As I stood at the altar, looking into Marissa's eyes and promising to love and honor her, I thought about the journey that had brought me there. The pain, the anger, the careful planning, and the sweet satisfaction of watching my enemies destroy themselves with their own choices. I wouldn't change any of it. Because sometimes, the only way to build something beautiful is to first tear down everything that's rotten, and sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim.